I'm going to call our meeting to order at 4:35 p.m. All right, we're going to have an adoption of the agenda. So it's recommended that the agenda of the Municipal Heritage Committee dated March 11th, 2025 be approved as circulated and amended. Can I have a mover? Paul, a seconder, Glenn, all in favor? Perfect. It is amended. And that carries. Thank you. There is no disclosure of pecuniary interest. All right. There's a recommendation that the approval of minutes, so the minutes of the Municipal Heritage Committee meeting dated February 18th, 2025 be approved as circulated. Can I have a mover? Glenn. Seconder, Paul. All in favor? Carried. There are no deputations. We are finishing up our working group report. So this is before we create our new working groups for 2025. So the name has not changed, even though we had already discussed a change previously for the properties of interest group. That will change on the next agenda. So this is, we're just finishing up our reports, and then we'll be making our new working groups later. So we'll start with Paul, if you can talk about the Built Heritage Boards working group.
Built Heritage Awards Working Group has nothing new to report. We're hoping to get another member at least when we regroup. Thank you.
Thank you. Glenn, can you share about the Properties of Interest Working Group?
Yep. We haven't had a chance to meet since our last Heritage meeting. And I think probably it would be prudent to wait till the work plan is approved by council and we get any new members to continue on the work that we're going to do. So.
Thank you. Richard, can you give us an update for the Interpretive Signs and Plaques Working Group?
Is this working? Thank you, Madam Chairman, Chair, or how I should be Chairperson. Sorry. I can report that the working group for the Interpretive Signs and Plaques group in Gravenhurst had a little meeting. Actually, it was a meeting between Mary Story and myself just recently. Judy Humphreys was not able to attend because she is just taking off for a holiday and hoping to regain her health. She wasn't feeling very good. We have, anyway, our group had a bit of a discussion to try to decide how we were going to proceed, and we came up with about 7 different points of agreement. First of all, we were thinking that we would aim for 1 or 2 plaques, depending on what is arrangeable, to start off with. We have a whole list of possibilities, but we thought we'd start off with 2. One plaque might be for McCabe's Tavern at the south end of Gravenhurst, which was also the site of the old Queen's Hotel at one time, and perhaps a plaque there might have a text for McCabe's Tavern and Queen's Hotel on opposite sides or something like that. It was also the site of the first post office in Gravenhurst, as I'm sure you all know. The second possibility that we had in mind was a plaque for Mowry's Foundry, which was located just north of the post office in downtown Gravenhurst. So anyway, we were able to lay out about 7 procedures that we would have to follow. First of all, assuming that the committee as a whole agrees with our recommendation that we should start off with 1 or both of these 2 plaques we were talking about. If the committee agrees about that, then we figure that the working group, or is this premature, I wonder, because a new working group has yet to be officially sworn in. Maybe I shouldn't be talking about what we will do if we don't even exist. Should I go ahead or not? Okay, it occurs to us that to start off with, we would, once we get the approval, of course, we would have to check the lot numbers of where we would wish to put the plaques, and then we'd have to check with and read the sign bylaw for the town of Gravenhurst in order to get an idea of what is allowable. And at some point, we'd have to speak to the property owners or the people who have businesses on the sites to see if they possibly have any objection to plaques. And at some point, we'd have to speak to the town council and let them know, so to speak, what we were proposing to do, and hopefully they will agree. And at some point, we would have to speak to the economic development group in the town of Gravenhurst and get some parameters. For instance, we'd need to know about what the size of possible plaques and the materials that they might be built out of, so to speak. And another important thing, would pictures on the plaques be possible? That would depend on how large the plaques would be. If the plaques are very small, there would be no room for a picture, but if they are big enough, then maybe we could have a picture mounted on them for added interest. And of course, there's also the business of preparing text for the plaques, and that's going to take cooperation between the Gravenhurst Archives and the Steamship Society Archives to put the plaques together. And of course, eventually, we'll have to speak to the Works Department, I presume, as far as installing the plaques are concerned. This is how we see it. Mary, did I leave anything out?
No, I just think that the type of sign it is, whether it's wood or metal or whatever, that all has to be decided.
Yes, these are things we've got to find out. And I haven't mentioned, of course, the costs of all this, but anyway, these are the things that we anticipate we have to do, or the problems we have to solve.
Was there anything else, Mary, that you wanted to add?
Not at this point, I don't think.
Thank you for sharing. Perfect. All right. Are there any other, there was no other reports, right? Nope. All right. We're going to move right on to unfinished business. What's listed in unfinished business is Doors Open 2025. I think Angela's going to speak.
Thank you. Just as committee will recall, it was decided at the last meeting to postpone making a decision on whether the town of Gravenhurst wants to host a Doors Open event this year. A decision would need to be made today. So just quickly, I'll give you provide some overview. There is no official program theme for 2025, which does give more flexibility in terms of sites, properties that can be utilized. The entry fee will not come out of this committee's budget. There may be an opportunity to partner with Culture Days to maximize the tourism exposure. And we do have the advantage this year of having students who can enter the information on the provincial website. Now, with that said, a working group would need to be formed, and the working group can include people who are not on this committee. The working group would need to establish what buildings or sites would be included, make the appropriate arrangements with the owners if need be, and find volunteers to manage the site on the day, which would the date could be September 20th, which is a Saturday. There is a requirement for a minimum of 10 sites, and the criteria is it must be of historical, architectural, or cultural significance. Natural heritage sites and heritage gardens are also eligible, and entry to the sites must be free. That's a criteria of Doors Open. So just to give you some thoughts about the decision as to whether you want to participate in Doors Open this year or not.
And quick question, on the day of, there would have to be a volunteer at each of the sites?
Potentially, it would depend on the site. So, for example, I can think of the last time that Doors Open occurred in Gravenhurst, which was 2018. There were at least 2 buildings that come to mind where the owners were agreed to be the host to talk to anybody who came. So it really depends on the site and what the arrangements are.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Angela about Doors Open? Glenn?
It's not going to take one volunteer in each location, I'll tell you that. If we're open for the day, I assume we're open for 6 hours, let's say, 6 to 8 hours possibly. You got to be looking at least 2, probably 3, maybe 4 volunteers who understand what the site is all about and can give information about that. So it is a huge job to do that. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that. It's not going to be just one person sitting there, although it may have been in the past, but that's not fair to them, and it's certainly not fair to us to do that.
So we're wondering what the town is asking us
Yeah.
from us? Could we clarify that, Angela, just a little bit more?
So just to be clear, this wouldn't be a town-led event. It would be a town-sponsored event. Really, the Heritage Committee would be the leader on this event, should it be decided. The reason it's coming to committee is Doors Open Ontario did contact us as past participants, inquiring about whether there was any interest to participate again.
Any other questions for Angela?
Do they have a minimum amount of time you have to be open, I think is what Glenn was getting at. Like, could you be open 3 hours a day, or do you have to be open all day? Do you have to?
There's no minimum amount of time, so the hours could be chosen. The hours could be, might get a little bit complicated, but could be different for different sites. Ideally, all the sites are open the same amount of time, but if there was a restriction on a particular site. And I guess, sorry, just to clarify my last comment about not being town-led, it would be town-led through the support of the Heritage Committee and the impetus of the Heritage Committee. So it's, if the Heritage Committee isn't on board, the town's not going to participate, just to clarify that.
Any other questions about Doors Open? Yeah. They have a motion. There's a motion if we want to participate. Is there interest? Is anyone really interested in wanting to take a hold of this, make a working group and put it together? Sounds like there's a student who will do all the tech pieces and get that information put up on the website for us. So it's minimum 10 sites? Okay. So you have to organize 10 sites. And this is June, July? September. So you have until September.
Well, we'd have to have the sites.
Yeah, before that. It is a lot of work, yes. We need a working group. Mary?
I have participated in this as a volunteer, and I think it's a wonderful event. But I can't put my money where my mouth is because I'm not going to be in Ontario that weekend. So I think it's a great activity in the town, and all the people that came to town to enjoy it, or the people who are already here. It's a good social day, but it also looks good on our town. But we need a lot of people, a lot of hours.
Is there anyone interested in? Glenn?
Just a question, is 10 sites in Gravenhurst an option for us? Is 10 sites, do we have 10 sites that we could cover?
Yes, Angela shared at the last meeting that they have the list. It's sort of like the walking tour. Do you have that with you this time?
No, you don't, I just wanted to
Yeah, there's.
put that out there.
And we had talked about opening it up to the public if they felt that they have cultural or historical relevance on their own property, that they would be the caretaker and have those open so that we could have that open to the public. Is it possible to see if there's interest before we financially commit, Angela? Is that possible, or do we need to do that now?
Thank you for the question, and I assume you mean see if there's interest through private property owners? Yes, so the challenge is that the deadline for registration, for final registration, is March 31st. So really, the committee would need to make a decision today. We are pre-registered, but that registration can be withdrawn should committee decide not to proceed. But we do need to commit to final registration by March 31st. So we are at a deadline today.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who, Randy? Thank you.
Thank you. What's the financial commitment again? One moment. I, like Mary, I think I like the idea of it. I think it's a good program, and it certainly gives our committee some visibility. Again, and I think Glenn's concern is similar. Do we have enough, can we rally enough people to participate in it? And in front of that, I mean, my understanding, I've never participated, but, you know, we would have to obviously do some kind of write-up for the volunteers and some education of the volunteers about each site. As I think Mary brought up before, you know, sometimes you want to make sure that people at the site at least know as much as the people showing up to look at the site. But I don't see that as an impediment. I mean, you know, volunteers are volunteer, and there may be somebody who knows more than they do for sure, but it's still, overall, I think it's, like, I like the idea a lot. It's not a big, expensive thing to do necessarily, but it's just a question of whether we feel we can, you know, have enough participation, I think.
Oh, perfect. Angela's going to answer how the cost for us.
Thank you. It is $1,130, including HST, is the registration fee. Again, that wouldn't come out of this budget.
Glenn, you know?
Just to augment what Councillor Jorgensen said was, can we use QR codes when they get to these sites and then have a pre-recorded information come through their phones and things like that
So
when
you
it
go on
comes to that?
Yeah, when you go on the website, the door's open. It has different sites already on there, but we could create pamphlets with the use of our summer students to take that information with a QR code and have it at the site. But I think part of the doors open is there has to be somebody there, Angela? Yes? Someone needs to be on the property?
I think it's just beneficial to have somebody on the property. The other option that I don't know a lot about is there is a digital doors open. And so that's another option. There's the two, there's in-person or digital. So just to the question about whether somebody has the option of the digital, I'm just looking on the website.
We had discussed having the, like, Camp Calidor walk as part of it. So that would be, that has the QR code, so that could be independently led. I think there was a couple of other spots that we had talked about that as well. Now, when you say digital, is that part digital, part in person?
Just looking.
Angel's going to have a look for us. That's great. Mary?
Just for Glenn's benefit, because I'm not sure he's been on this before, not all the sites have a historic theme to them. I'm going to give you an example. The last time we did Doors Open, my hubby was in charge of Heritage Boat Works, which is the little workshop down by the steamships that does all the work for the steamships in the museum. It was an extremely busy place. It was fabulous. People were asking all kinds of questions. But my hubby and 3, if not 4, of the guys that go there every Wednesday to build things and repair things were on hand. I was there most of the day answering questions and involving people in discussions and so on. It was a very interesting place because we have a lot of families, a lot of people, and they're all learning, and it was a nice day, and it was all really good. But again, it was somewhat labor intensive. And we needed that many people because there were a lot of tools around, didn't want to go walking, didn't want saws to come down on people, whatever. Depends on the site. But they still need more than one person at each building or location. So again, it's an organizational thing because you got to find the sites to start with. And some of the sites, like the Fire College and so on, we've used again and again, which is fine because a lot of people don't go every year, so it works well.
I can just answer a bit more about the digital option. Just from the website, it says virtual, discover through the virtual experiences, including photo tours, virtual tours, videos, searchable collections, and online games and activities. So that would be another option. Again, in this case, it's less maybe people on the day of, but lots of information would need to be put together, and we do have a student who can assist with that, but would need the assistance to be able to do that.
Randy?
It sounds to me like the digital version is more a permanent thing that, you could turn on and turn off, but have the information there versus the, the one-day event. I mean, Mary's example there, the Heritage Boat Works is, you've kind of got some people you can draw on for something like that. I don't know that we have the same for everything, but certainly, property owners, they may be interested, but I think there's other, it's not necessarily heritage buildings alone. Like Doors Open covers, I think, a slightly broader range of stuff. Just showcasing buildings perhaps in the community too. But I'd like to see us give it a shot, but again, it depends on whether the committee feels that we can pull it off, I guess is the question.
Angela, do we have to pick between the digital platform and in person, or can it be a mix?
Great question.
Like Glenn was saying, going to a site and having a QR code versus an in-person tour. So maybe it's a tour around the property.
It's a great question. Oh, sorry. It is a good question. I believe it's one or the other. I guess another option that occurs to me, if digital is more appealing as more of a long-term resource, then it's something that could be looked at for a future year. This is specific, the website is specific to 2025 digital Doors Open. So If that's more appealing, then again, that's something that could be looked at for at another time.
Is there any other questions for Angela about doors open? Comments? Okay, Randy?
Just again, I guess a question for Ange. Do we have any of the material, like digital, like we have the write-ups from previous times that we could, at least as a starting point? I know I saw some pamphlets, but do we have that in digital form saved somewhere?
We do. So the hard copy, this is, yeah, it's all available digitally to draw on. And from previous years, I just chose these two as being the most recent years, but certainly it's all available digitally.
Richard?
I had just one quick question. If it comes to a vote, do we have the option, for instance, that if we say, yes, we'd like to go ahead with the doors open for 2025, but we find that in practice, that we can't recruit enough volunteers, or that it's going to be just too much for us to handle, then do we have the option of withdrawing?
I think Angela can answer that.
That would be disappointing people, but I just want to know.
Withdrawing without a refund. So withdrawing, but the registration fee would be paid.
Any other questions? Anyone really interested in taking it on as a group? I do have a motion, if anyone wants to allocate the money, or doesn't seem like anyone's interested in taking it on. Is it something we want to push to 2026? I can read you the motion, and you can, yeah, if I read it, you have to vote, so.
If you read it, you have to vote?
Yes. So if you're interested, we can make it a working group, or we can push it till 2026, or we could create a working group to prep for 2026, or we can make a working group to prep digital. We got lots of different options we can do. And it looks like with Angela's handouts, she had, like, it was already pre-done. And I know we had looked at on the municipal website, they also have the map with the different places with the information already. And with a summer student, we should be able to pull that together to have the digital. And the price is the same for digital? Angela, that's what you said? Yeah? Sorry, Paul, go ahead.
So if we do it for digital, do we have to pay the fee every year?
Yes, it's a yearly fee. Randy?
I'm just gonna say, I think the fee probably goes towards, the province marketing it and getting it out there. Because there's a lot of communities, I guess, that participate in this, so it is a province-wide program. And I do, I think we could probably, people who have participated in the past as volunteers, we could probably figure out who that was and see if they're available.
Could we
as
pull
well.
from the Heritage Conference? We had a lot of volunteers for the Heritage Conference.
Yeah.
Could we pull from that list?
I mean, we've got, I think we have, I think we have some pools of talent, if you will, that we could pull from.
I think,
And, versus putting it off, I mean, September's, I think it's far enough away that we could, if we get going on it right now. I mean, we pulled off the Heritage Conference, I think, in a similar time frame, and there's probably a lot more moving parts to that.
and the money's not coming out of our budget, so.
Yeah.
So it has to be
the
approved.
Money is, it's a consideration,
Yeah.
but
It has to go to council to
know.
be approved, so just because we make the motion doesn't mean that council's going to approve the funding, so.
yeah. So, I mean, I'm happy to put forward, I think, the motion, and we'll see where it lands.
Okay. Any other questions before I make the motion? Nope, okay. So, yes, thank you. here's our motion. Be it resolved that the Municipal Heritage Committee requests that the council approve the allocation of the use of the municipal accommodation tax for the Doors Open 2025 registration fee. Can I have a mover? Paul? Seconder? Randy? All in favor? Any opposed? I've never had that happen. I have hand up, so vote. All right, so motion was carried. All right. Was there any other questions about Doors Open? So moving. Yes, so we'll put that into the working group. There's no correspondence?
No correspondence other than what was provided through email.
I think I skipped one. There we go. New business. Here we go. Working groups establishment. So Angela's going to speak to that.
Thank you. So each year, the establishment of the working groups is a reflection of that year's work plan. And in this case, the 2025 work plan has not yet been approved by council. That's scheduled to happen next Tuesday. But given the rather light agenda for this meeting, I did include the establishment of working groups at this meeting with the understanding that should council change something from the work plan, then the working groups may need to be adjusted. But keep in mind that working groups can be added or modified at any time throughout the year, as long as there is a related task on the work plan. So with that in mind, we have, based on input from previous meetings, there's a resolution prepared for 3 working groups. I think based on the last item, we'll now add a 4th working group. And so we can go through that now.
Yeah, is that all right? Great. So there are the 4 working groups. So Built Heritage Awards Working Group, the change of name noted for Heritage Recognition Working Group, previously Properties of Interest, Interpretive Signage Working Group, and Doors Open 2025 Working Group. Were there any other working groups that needed to be added from our work plan? It was just the 4? Great. Randy?
This may be a question for Ange, I'm not sure. So would each working group just kind of rework potentially their terms of reference? Or how does that work normally?
Thanks for that question. The working groups don't have terms of reference per se. So it's just really based on the work plan, how the establishment of the working groups. The one exception, I think, would be the Built Heritage Awards group, which there has been criteria for those awards. So it would be up to the Built Heritage Awards Working Group whether they wanted to revisit that criteria. But the Interpretive Signage Working Group has already provided, committee approved last month, the criteria for that working group, and the other 2 would just be based, the project base, so there's no specific terms of reference.
Any other questions about working groups? All right, we will make a motion. So no? Oh, we're going to choose it now? Fabulous. All right. So we get to choose who's going to be on the working group. So if you would like to change up your working group or join a different group, now is your time. We can change it later on as well. So for Built Heritage Awards Working Group. Is there anyone interested in being a part of that group? Paul, fabulous. Paul?
Yes, I would like to be on that group so I can see through what we've already started.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else want to join Paul? Hopefully with a new member, we'll have someone to join you, okay? All right, so the second working group, Heritage Recognition Working Group. Is anyone interested in remaining or joining that group? So Glenn, myself, Judy as well? Yes, so Judy will remain on that group. Does anyone else want to join the Heritage Recognition Working Group? Okay, so it'll remain the three that were on there. Interpretive Signage Working Group. So Richard wants to stay, Mary, Judy?
Yes.
Yes, Judy wants to remain, and I'll remain on that one as well. Anyone else want to join Interpretive Signage Working Group? Okay. And Doors Open 2025 Working Group. Randy will join there. Paul. Judy will join. Yeah. Mary, interested in helping get? Do you want to help prep and? Yes, oh, great, Mary, and you can put myself on there too. Great. Anyone else want to join Doors Open Working Group? Okay, so I have to read each one, right? Great. We're going to get it typed up so everybody at home can see.
On now? Over procedure, can any working group just select anybody or approve anybody they want to join them? And if so, do we need to get the approval of the committee as a whole to do that?
That's a great question. It is a good question. For Angela, yeah, thanks.
Thanks for that question. Anybody can be on any working group. So a member of the public can be on a working group. I'm not sure if they would need to be, I'll have to get back to you, if they would need to be approved by the committee, but certainly any member of the public can be part of a working group. Isn't limited to the committee or the affiliate members. Other people can join as well.
here we go. All right, be it resolved that the Municipal Heritage Committee establish the following working groups for 2025 and be comprised of the following members. Built Heritage Awards Working Group, Paul Cook. Heritage Recognition Working Group, Glenn Silver, Lindsay Nealon, Judy Humphreys. Interpretive Signage Working Group, Richard Tatley, Mary Story, Judy Humphreys, Lindsay Nealon. Doors Open 2025 Working Group, Randy Jorgensen, Paul Cook, Judy Humphreys, Mary Story, and Lindsay Nealon. Can I have a mover? Paul, a seconder, Richard, all in favor? Motion carried. All right, and like I had said before, there is no correspondence. I think we're ready to adjourn. So I'm going to make a motion to adjourn. Is there a mover? Paul, seconder, Randy, all in favor? Motion carried. Thanks, everybody.